Deputy Noel Grealish on behalf of the Regional Group.
Minister, it is no exaggeration to say that smaller businesses are the lifeblood of the country. Between them, micro, small and medium-sized enterprises provide employment for more than 1.2 million people, the length and breadth of the country. These are at the heart of every city, town and down to the smallest village, and every one of them are supporting employment in other enterprises. That's their suppliers. But today they are struggling. The viability is threatened. Who in this House can't list off the names of a dozen or more enterprises in their constituencies that have closed in recent years because they just could not remain economically viable? And dozens more that are struggling to keep their doors open in the hope that something will change to help them survive. These are not just faceless businesses, Minister, but enterprises that are at the very heart of our communities. The local shop, hairdresser, cafe and others, offering vital employment to hundreds of thousands of people, often in areas where there is no major source of employment and the nearest is many, many miles away. These are the people who are keeping our communities alive, keeping our little villages and towns vibrant, and not just a collection of buildings. Minister, I have to acknowledge the support the government put in place during the COVID pandemic. Without that support, many businesses would not have survived. They need government support again now. That is why, Minister, I will be expecting your support on Wednesday, the 14th of February, for a private member's business motion tabled by Deputy Matt Shanahan and my colleagues in the Regional Independent Group for the establishment of a special task force. This will include representatives of micro and small businesses and government departments and agencies, and its job will be to review all government-controlled charges, remove unnecessary red tape and reduce the cost of doing business, and to be involved in the drawing up of future government policy impacting the sector. We will also be seeking, Minister, immediate measures such as the reducing the VAT rate for food businesses in the hospitality sector, adjusting the employer's PRSI higher rate threshold to reflect the increase in the national minimum wage, and speeding up the work permit process. Minister, my question to you today is, will your government support and implement our private members' business that is coming before the House Wednesday, where we are calling on the government to reduce the VAT from 13.5% to 9% and cut PRSI rates for struggling SMEs by Easter?
Grealish, Minister.
Thank you very much, Deputy Grealish, for raising this issue, and I acknowledge you had a P&B that was on the order paper this week, which I understand will now be taken next week on this issue, and the government will be responding to that motion. And I would agree with you that SMEs around the country are the lifeblood of towns, villages, communities all over Ireland, and the government values them. And the government, as you have acknowledged, supported small business in particular to a great extent over the last number of years. I mean, we provided, as a government, support through wage subsidy schemes of over €10 billion. €10 billion to support wages in the private sector because it was the right thing to do. About €1.5 billion of commercial rates were waived, and there were a whole range of other support schemes, including restart schemes administered by the Department of Enterprise, Trade and Employment. So we want to support viable businesses. Nobody wants to see any business close. We are, it should be acknowledged, also seeing new businesses open all the time. We have provided extensive support through the most recent budget to our economy and to help the customers of those businesses. For example, a cost of living package of around €2.7 billion, a full-year income tax package of €1.3 billion, and a social welfare permanent package of over €1 billion. So that's over €5 billion of measures to help put money in the pockets of the customers of those businesses. That said, we acknowledge that the different policy decisions that government has made, which in and of themselves individually are all very good things, have contributed to a very challenging environment for a lot of businesses, in particular minimum wage, changes to sick pay, changes to PRSI that are coming, and further planned changes in terms of auto-enrolment and so on. Government acknowledges that. That's why Minister Coveney, Minister Richmond and Minister Cleary have been doing a body of work to assess the cumulative impact of changes in policy and other changes that have resulted in the cost base of businesses increasing significantly. My focus has been on making changes to the tax debt warehousing regime, which I announced at the beginning of this week, essentially eliminating interest on tax debt that has been warehoused. That will be of benefit to tens of thousands of businesses. Any business that has already paid interest on the warehouse tax debt will have it refunded by the Revenue Commissioners, and the Revenue Commissioners have confirmed that they will be as flexible as possible in terms of agreeing phased payment arrangements for the clearing of the tax debt over a period of time. The standard period is 3 to 5 years, but they have the discretion to go beyond that in individual cases. In addition, the Department of Enterprise, Trade and Employment is working with local authorities now to finalise the arrangements for the payment of the increased cost of doing business grant, and it's expected that businesses will be corresponded with in the next couple of weeks in relation to the arrangements for that.
Thank you. Deputy Grealish.
Minister, thank you for your reply. The Regional Independent Group of Trudees met with Adrian Cummins and Adam Hallisey of the Restaurants Association of Ireland yesterday, where he outlined the serious crisis facing the hospitality sector. He has told us that the 50% increase in the VAT rate from 9% to 13.5% has resulted in over 300 businesses being closed since it came into effect, with most of the remaining businesses having to absorb this VAT increase as they could not pass the increased costs on to the customers. Most restaurants operate at a 5 to 7% margin, Minister. The increased VAT has come on top of the minimum wage increase of 12.4%, sky-high energy costs, inflated food costs and upcoming pension auto-enrolment costs. Minister, we were asking you to split the VAT rate, which is the norm in many EU countries, and reduce it from 13.5% back to 9% for the restaurant and sector in particular. Minister, this is what we in the Regional Independent Group are looking for in our PMB on Wednesday, and if it does not happen, there will be further major closures in the hospitality sector in the months ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Grealish. Minister, to conclude.
And we regret any closures. We do not want to see any viable business closing down. I think it's important to remember the context of the reduction in the VAT rate. When it first happened, it was to stimulate demand by reducing prices to drive footfall into businesses. It was continued during COVID, and it was also extended in the context of the war in Ukraine and the cost of living pressures that so many are facing. 14 of the 27 EU member states have a VAT rate on food services of 12% or higher. Ireland's actually 8th overall in that context. The main issue being raised by many businesses with me is 1, the availability of labour, and 2, the cost of doing business. And we do hear that message, and we are conscious of it. I have no plans to change the VAT rate. Or were I to come in and make a proposal to change one particular tax rate, Deputy, I would immediately face calls, and those calls are already being made by retailers to change the standard rate of VAT. The vintners are looking for a reduction in excise. We would essentially be into another budget, and that's not going to happen. So we will work with our colleagues in the Department of Enterprise on the administration of the grant scheme. The tax debt warehousing initiative has been announced, and I know the department is examining the combined effect, and we will be discussing that across government. But I want to be clear in setting the expectations so that businesses can plan. The government has no plans to introduce a further budget this side of October.
All right. That concludes Leaders' Questions for today and for this week.